per child and day in institution care being 3,669 crowns or $500, which becomes over 1.3 million crowns in a year or about $170,000. For comparison, American care averages $30,000 per year. Neither country provides good care to the children, but the costs aren't quite as much out of control in the American system. The Swedish system differs in that the state very much overlooks placing children with relatives, instead favoring institution care. The vast majority of Swedish funds go to institution care. In spite of these $500 per child and day, the institutions are often very much run-down places. Most institutions are privately run with no real cost control by the government. The Swedish system also stands out in that there is actually an unfounded belief that you can improve the lives of children who don't really need care by taking them into state custody, an idea which is rejected in most of the Western world. The Swedish laws provide a very extensive mandate for putting children into care. This generous mandate has sparked controversies over the years. In particular, the cases where children have been taken from their mothers right at birth because the state decided they were not fit to raise children. This couple, who had a diagnosis of mild mental retardation, had their son taken shortly after birth on the 11th of September 2001, since they failed the parenting test the social services put them through and didn't prepare gruel the right way, among other things. A Vietnamese couple had their child taken at a maternity hospital in December of 2007 since the mother had epilepsy and authorities questioned whether they would be able to care for their child. And in 1998, a woman named Kristina Ekman, who was expecting a child, had been in contact with the social services during her pregnancy. The social services had decided before her child was born that it was going to be taken into custody. At the hospital, her newborn son is taken from her. The next day, she is put in a psych ward, with the doctors citing a suicide risk from the state having taken her baby. The seizure of the child, on the other hand, is motivated with the woman being involuntarily committed to a psych ward. A recent report by the social authorities on the state of foster care admit that it's not providing very good care. These sentences read: almost all social daytime care of teenagers consists of unevaluated treatment. That is, society through force, threats or persuasions makes these intrusive interventions without knowing if the measures have a beneficial, neutral or even harmful effect on the development and life chances of the children in a longer perspective. The law regulating foster care in Sweden is called Lagen om vård av unga, the Law on Care for Minors, or LVU for short. There are two main provisions for care in this law. Paragraph 2 concerning the environment of the child, which reads like this: care shall be decided on if because of physical or mental abuse, improper exploitation, lack in care, or any other condition in the home, there is an obvious risk that the health or development of the child is harmed. Care can be provided supported by this paragraph until children are 18 years old, and the aforementioned cases have been supported by this paragraph. The other provision is the behavioral one, paragraph 3, dealing with the behavior and lifestyle of the child. Care shall also be decided on if the child exposes his health or development to an obvious risk for damage through substance abuse, criminal activity, or any other socially destructive behavior. The last wording is actually the one used the most for seizures, and what comprises socially destructive behavior is up to the individual social workers. This paragraph can be invoked until people become 20 years old, and care can keep going until they become 21. The lines between forced and voluntary care are very diffuse under this law. Paragraph 22 provides for preventive measures that can be taken if the Social Bureau decides the child will need care in the future if the Bureau doesn't intervene. Point 2 reads that the child shall attend a treatment in open forms within the social services. You can't but be baffled at authorities making it a requirement participating in voluntary care. Outside Sweden, perhaps people would realize that that means it's not voluntary anymore. To clarify how these laws should be applied, the social authorities in 1997 published this 120-page document on the specifics of care. Telling your child he can come home from voluntary care. Parents not cooperating with voluntary care. No need for a behavior to have caused any problems yet. Think you can spank your child? The government can take your child right after you give birth. Immigrants can't spank their children either, even if their own cultures allow it. Munchausen by proxy. Parents arguing. Is the child being forced to marry against her own will? So, you mean, you can leave an arrest order for a child that doesn't reside in the country, you just can't send the police abroad and take the child back to Sweden? The child used drugs on one occasion. Voluntary care is refused. The child doesn't conform to society's norms. Decided to use steroids. The Bureau can take your children immediately without a court order. The parents might hide the child. Immediate LVU. In acute situations, sometimes a relatively high degree of uncertainty must be accepted. Parents might take their child outside Sweden's borders. Immediate LVU. Thought it required more than one person to decide on an immediate LVU? Think again.